Hi, Otter from Otter at the Back of Beyond here with another video after a long time of no filming. I had been thinking about doing a video on what planners I had been using in 2015 and how they had worked, and I was very inspired by Vegan Organizer, who also actually solved my problem about what I was supposed to call the video anyway. So this was the planner calendar I was using, an academic one, 14-15. This is sort of the standard Danish type, where we have the last half of 14 and the first half of 15, and then all the months start with this monthly view, where they are in rows, and then a day per page. And then sometimes if there's only 30 days, then there's an empty page for notes here, and then the month and on a page, and then the day per page. And this is what I have been using for eons, like 20 years or something like that. And then sometime in March I discovered planner videos on YouTube and fell down the rabbit hole and started thinking about using my planner not just for writing down appointments, but actually also for trying to use it as a tool to getting things done. And one thing which I had been inspired by, was tracking sheets, which I made and managed to get in, and that started from April. And I don't know if you can see the markings, sort of the first few days. I think I must have put it in around the 6th, because that's when it starts. And I had some things I wanted to keep track of, and I started that way. And generally I didn't really write a lot, but I started then jotting down things I wanted to get done, making small task lists, and that continued into May and into June, and this was actually really helpful for me, because there were things, my medication and stuff like that, which I hadn't been wonderful at taking care of, but all of a sudden I was doing amazingly. And I was also making sure I had got breakfast, and I was pretty darn good at brushing my teeth in the morning as well. And I started doing the dishes sort of semi-regularly. But then, yes, and then I was eyeing all those planner stickers that people had, and I managed to make myself some very primitive ones with a hole punch shaped like a balloon, and I used ordinary label paper which I colored, and then I cut out balloons and stuck them on, and then when I had completed the job, then I would put a string on and give them a face, so I knew that I had actually done it. And here are a couple where I haven't. And that sort of brought us to the end of June, and then I had been considering whether I should go out and buy the 15-16 one, and then I decided no, I was going to try to do it in a notebook. As it turns out, the notebook I chose was probably too cheap, right? It didn't stay in there long, so I made my monthly layouts on the computer and taped them in, and I made my tracker sheets and taped them in, and then in here I could use this page to write things that I wanted to try to get done in that month. And then I used a couple of the following pages to track my expenses, and I had made some pockets here, very primitive ones, just regular copy paper and washi tape, and I had thought that I could use them for storing receipts, but I never got around to that. And then, as it's probably pretty obvious, this was another case where this notebook actually wasn't very good, because the paper quality is pretty iffy. So there was a lot of shadowing, if not actual bleed through, and that's also visible here with the number, which was a bit of a disappointment. So I then ended up printing out the month names on labels and gluing them in, but then I discovered the thing about bulk. When there's a lot of stickers, it becomes very bulky. And I tried different ways of doing the numbers, the dates and the days, and then in the end I more or less went over to pencil. One thing that I had started in the month of June was putting in these small post-its in the lower corner, and on that page, on that sticky note, I would write every single thing that I ate or drank that day, and then I would transfer them to a larger notebook I had. So I would have these pages of post-its dated, and then I could bring them along when I went to see the dietitian, because she had, when I started a couple of years ago going to see a dietitian, she had suggested that I should keep a food diary, and I hadn't been able to that. And I was really proud of the fact that, wow, I got this to work. And went to see her for my following appointment, only to be told that she was quitting that job. She had found some other job, and that there would be no replacement. And then that sort of petered out, because I need help in then breaking down all of this information that I can't sort of figure out how to deal with that myself. But anyway, but I kept the day per page. I don't mind the fact that there are many pages where there's practically nothing on, just a few stickers and to-do lists. It is important for me to have a clear, uncluttered view. And as you can see, there's also no decorating as such. Again, my setup for the beginning of the month, and my expense tracking. And then I was sort of feeling a bit discouraged and not really getting much done. And then September, I try going for what seems to be the traditional American layout, but I realized that this doesn't work for me. This was what I had suspected, that I get confused because there's columns and there's rows. And one case especially where it makes a mess is when there's something happening which stretches over multiple days, because it becomes this really unwieldy long line which just confuses me, whereas here I can just make a small bracket at one end and write whatever it is, and that confuses me much, or that doesn't confuse me at all, and everything comes in order, at least for me. And well, yeah, I hardly used it in September, and well, I think part of the reason is definitely this was too poor quality notebook for this job. And there were a number of things. When I first started doing this more serious sort of planning, my parents were a bit against it, because they say, I mean, you can't take everything into consideration, and life is what happens when you're busy making plans. And that has sort of partly been true for this year, that there have been all sorts of things going on which have affected me very much, and which have meant that I haven't been able to remain focused, or as focused as could be wished. But anyway, after that notebook, I had figured out that, okay, that wasn't going to work, and I was still trying to figure out if I was going to buy myself a Filofax or something similar. And then I found these, just a regular normal plastic ring binder with 2 holes, which is the standard here, but in an A5 size rather than an A4. and that cost 30 krona, and the filofaxes that I had looked at were like 450 or something like that. So I thought, okay, I'll buy this small one, this cheap thing, and I'll make some inserts myself, and then I'll see how it goes. And I have removed them because I'm setting up for 16. And October, I'm not actually sure why I actually got two. Maybe I printed out by mistake. And here I decided to experiment a bit with decorating. So some washi tape and some stamping and some stickers. And then I printed out from my life all in one place the day per page, because this was sort of what mostly resembled what I was used to from the spiral bound. And there was this block with tasks with the boxes already there. And then I started sort of decorating. Not much, but this was just sort of to experiment. And then I had some colored paper, and I discovered that on the colored paper there was no bleed through, and there was hardly any, that the pens I was using hardly shadowed even on the pages. The stamping ink did, but, and then I sort of experimented, but with all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And I didn't do it every day. I would do it on the Sunday. Then I would set up the following week. And then I crashed and burned. October was a killer month for me. So I was able to keep myself together for a while, and then I just crashed and burned. And for some reason I had printed out a large version, an A4 size, of the monthly page. But yeah, I could technically write more on it, but I'm not enchanted by it. And November was a bit sporadic again. And then we started getting to the middle of November, and then what I have discovered seems to happen is when we hit about the middle of November, then I already start thinking about December and Christmas and the New Year, and well, anyway, that was more or less how I made my way through 2015. I had these two personal sized Hello Kitties planners. Can't remember how I got my paws on them, but somehow I did. And I had used one of them as a blog and YouTube planner. But things all the things that have happened this year, they sort of rather collided, and I just forgot about them, and I couldn't focus, and my blog has been seeing, well, it's just been in hiatus, I guess. I am going to get back into it, I hope. I hope that the coming year is going to be much better, and I can already give you a sneak. I put some rainbow tape there, and I have continued a bit on the theme of using colored paper, but I will save this and the second binder because I decided I need 2 binders because this was simply too full. I only had 5 months in it or something like that, and it was bursting at the seams. But that was sort of my first foray into planner world in 2015, and it has helped for me in my managing my life to the extent that it needs managing. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll return to watch what I am setting up for 2016. I have a couple. I can give you a sneak peek. This is one of the guys I'm going to be using in 16. I'm going to show it to you guys because I've loved the videos that Vegan Organizer has done on different sorts of planners, and although I really doubt there are many people from Denmark out there watching this, you might find it sort of interesting to see what sort of options there are in other countries. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you have a comment you can just leave it down below, and then I'll get cracking on finishing my 2016 setup and then give you a glimpse of that. Bye.